My intention was simply to quit my job. At 28, I was tired of flying cargo over the Arctic Circle. But the frosty snowflake pendant I found on my fiancé's jacket pushed me to plan a revenge colder than Alaska's harsh winter. Dear friends, before diving into this story, if you value true life stories and justice, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Don't forget to write in the comments which city you're listening from. I'm always curious to know how far my words travel. Enjoy listening. Anchorage International Airport, ANC, resembled a bustling yet quiet hive. I was Clara Petrova, 28 years old, and my life flowed to the rhythm of these sounds. I had a pilot's license, but my real power was something I inherited from my father, a fishing license for the Bering Sea, highly profitable, technically complex, which we called the Ice Queen. This license was Alaska's most valuable asset. Liam and I had been together for 5 years. He was tall, always smiling, a city man. We had met when my father brought him in as a financial manager for my business. He handled the numbers while I handled the machines and the air. We had grown our business together, or so I thought. Together, we lived in a warm house just outside Anchorage, surrounded by forest with large windows. Everything was planned for the future. Our wedding date was 6 months away. That morning, the house was as peaceful as ever. The first light of dawn filtered through the pine trees and hit our wooden floor. Liam was getting ready to leave for Seattle on a business trip. He was going to sign the final papers for the next big modernization deal for the Ice Queen. With his expensive leather briefcase in hand, he looked every bit the CEO. "Is everything ready, honey?" I asked. I reached for his favorite wool sweater to give him for his post-flight relaxation. "Of course," he said. He kissed my cheek quickly. "I'll be back in a few days. This deal will finally give us the freedom to move south, to that warm weather." Freedom. He had been using that word a lot lately, but for some reason, his voice reminded me of Valencia's cold calculation. After Liam left, I felt a strange emptiness in the house. When I picked up the jacket to fold it, I noticed something heavy in his pocket. It wasn't his wallet or keys. My hand hit something cold and sharp. I pulled a small velvet pouch from his pocket. Inside was a delicate, elegant pendant, its platinum coating catching the light. A snowflake. It looked as if it were made entirely of ice, with a single small diamond sparkling at its center. It was beautiful, so beautiful. But this pendant wasn't mine. I felt a knot of ice growing in my chest. Liam would never give me a necklace. His gifts were always practical and flashy. A big, showy ring or the latest model phone. This snowflake whispered simplicity and intimacy. I threw the necklace on the bed and rushed to Liam's briefcase. No, I couldn't look in his briefcase. That would be disrespectful of his private life. But my instincts, that financial manager's clarity my father had taught me, screamed, "The deal is dirty. The assets are in danger." Like Ulea, I had learned through years of logical calculations. I opened the briefcase. On top was Liam's boarding pass. Right below it, I found an official, thick, sealed file. It wasn't the modernization contract I had expected. The title made my heart clench in my chest. Asset Transfer Agreement, Alaska License 44B. I read it. My eyes skimmed over the words, but each one was etched into my brain. Liam was selling 51% of our Ice Queen license. The buyer was Polar Investments, a giant Seattle-based holding company. But the real shocker was that the contract date was 2 months prior. And worst of all proceeds from the sale were being wired to a joint account opened in Seattle, in the name of a partner named Liam and Marcus Jenkins. Marcus was Liam's new business partner, whom I had always found suspicious. Why was he doing this? This wasn't just a business deal. It was an attempt to embezzle an asset that belonged to my father, my inheritance, without my consent. I poured myself a glass of water. Just like Maya, silently sipping her water, my hands were shaking. The disgusting selfishness behind the small oversights, crude jokes, and criticisms I had ignored for years was now exposed. Liam saw me only as a financial resource. The emotional aspect of Liam's betrayal was as painful as the financial aspect. My mind quickly flashed back. Like Maya, who had spent the last 10 years living in the shadows, I too had sacrificed myself for Liam's selfish desires. He constantly criticized me. "Clara, why are you so tired? Why don't you lose some weight?" Or when his mother came, she would belittle me too. Northern girls know nothing but work, right? Liam would always remain silent, defend his mother, never protect me. That necklace on Liam's jacket showed me not only financial betrayal, but emotional betrayal too. That snowflake symbolized the step he took for another woman at Polar Investments. Liam was selling the Ice Queen and me for a warm southern life. I put the necklace back in the bag and returned it to the sweater pocket. The masks were torn. I had to keep my composure. No panic, no crying. This was like a corporate merger. There was no room for emotion, only accounting. I quickly sat down at my laptop on my desk. Liam's flight to Seattle had just taken off. I had a few hours of silence ahead of me. The first task was a single file my father had left me, one Liam didn't know about. Petrova Assets Emergency Management Protocol. This protocol was just like the golden parachute Ulea had planned with Julian. Its purpose was to instantly transfer control of the company and all personal property to a single person. My computer booted up instantly, greeting me with my father's minimalist black interface. For years, I had allowed Liam to act as if he were a successful businessman. Yet all the corporate cards and funds he used were linked to my main account. I wasn't a pilot. I was an ATM with a heart. And just like Ulea, this ATM had decided to shut down for maintenance. I immediately clicked on the Family Access Management icon. There were the names Liam Miller and Marcus Jenkins. Limits? Unlimited. What irony! Unlimited love turned into an unlimited credit limit, and they thought it would always stay that way. I pressed Edit. I deleted the infinity symbol in the credit limit field and entered a single number, 0. Then I initiated the legal procedures for asset transfer. I found my father's lawyer's phone number. "Good morning, Ms. Petrova." The lawyer's surprisingly smooth voice came from the other end of the line. "Hello, David," I said. My voice didn't waver, thanks to the ice crystal forming inside me. "Remember the emergency protocol? We're initiating it today, immediately." "But Mrs. Petrova, that's an extreme measure. What happened?" "Liam is trying to sell 51% of our license to North Pole Investments. They're signing the papers in Seattle today. This is an unauthorized financial transaction and fraud. Stop the transfer of the license, freeze all bank accounts belonging to private property, and revoke all of Liam Miller's company authorizations. Yes, immediately. They must still be going through passport control." I hung up the phone. A genuine smile appeared on my face for the first time. I didn't want to stay home anymore. I quickly changed my clothes, put on my winter coat, and grabbed my car keys. I went to that little bar at Anchorage Airport with panoramic windows. I could see the runway perfectly. It was a huge mechanism where everything was locked and orderly, unlike my family, where every screw knew its place. "1 Hennessy, double measure, please," I said to the waiter. Holding my cognac glass, I watched the plane carrying Liam take off. He was probably reclining his seat inside, believing the rules were written only for economy class. He would extend that platinum card and order an expensive drink. The waiter placed the glass in front of me. The amber liquid reflected the glare of the runway lights. I took a sip. The warmth spread through my chest, but it couldn't melt the ice crystal that had formed there half an hour earlier. I took out my phone. My banking app loaded instantly. I checked Liam's card. Transaction classification error, unauthorized credit regulation use. Liam was in the air right then, at that very moment. And at that very moment, I knew the most critical moment to strike financially had arrived. I imagined the plane at 30,000 feet. Liam, with his usual cocky smile, had ordered a bottle of special champagne. He would insert his card into the terminal. The system warned, "Caution, changing the category will immediately cancel the bank's guarantee obligations to the merchant. The amount will be billed to the supplementary cardholder as a personal debt." "Are you sure?" I looked out the window. The plane was taking off from the ground, carrying them to that stolen south. "Yes," I said aloud and pressed confirm. The screen turned green. Changes accepted. Connection to supplementary cards terminated. Now I knew what would happen. Liam was probably surprised that the card was rejected. "This is ridiculous," he grumbled. "The chip is broken. Try again." But the result was the same. "Sorry, sir. The bank is blocking the transaction. We need another form of payment." Liam panicked. He would try his second spare card from his wallet. The result was the same. Insufficient balance. Liam was about to shout, "I'll complain. I have millions in there." But the flight attendant would say coldly, "I'm sorry, I can't serve you. Also, I'd like you to pay cash for the opened snacks. Otherwise, the police will meet us upon arrival." I finished the cognac in one gulp. The harshness of the alcohol finally matched the harshness of my resolve. The plane became a small dot in the sky. Their flight had only just begun, but they were already falling. I paid cash for the cognac and left a generous tip. I got into my car and slowly drove towards the city. The cool Alaskan air filled me. I knew that when Liam landed in Seattle, what awaited him wasn't just financial chaos. There, he would face the cold face of Polar Investments, a firm that saw him not as a big business deal, but simply as a con artist, confronted by a large army of lawyers. By the time Liam started calling my phone, I was already home. Inside, I felt the coolness of the hardwood floor under my feet. It was the feeling of a home that was only mine. Liam's complaints were absent, the sound of the television absent. I felt a strange lightness, like I'd thrown off a backpack full of stones I'd carried for years. My phone rang. Liam. My eyes filled with determination. Things were starting to improve, but now all that awaited him was an ice labyrinth woven from my silent, calculated moves. In the airport lobby in Seattle, he would read the message I sent him. "You need to pay cash for your return ticket to Alaska. And no, all the accounts at home are frozen. The best decision a CFO can make is to get rid of an unprofitable asset." But the real question was, in Seattle, would the woman he'd given the necklace to remain loyal to him in times of crisis? What would you do? At that moment, the cognac in my glass was harder than ice crystals. As I watched Liam's plane depart from Atlanta, I could smell the financial winter he would face the moment he set foot in Seattle. The winter I'd prepared for him would last far longer than Alaska's. As the jet carrying Liam sped across the icy waters of the Pacific, I had returned to Anchorage. My home was enveloped in a profound silence, devoid of his constant tension, his endless phone calls, and his mother's criticisms. It was as if it had undergone surgery, the infected tissue cleaned out. Liam should have felt like a conqueror when he stepped onto the beach at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, SEA, a few hours later. In his pockets was the most expensive suit I'd ever bought, and in his hand was the briefcase that would determine the future of the Ice Queen. He should have been met at the airport by the stylish, chauffeured limousine of Polar Investments. Instead, the limousine driver simply shrugged when he saw Liam's titanium platinum card. With the same coldness the flight attendant had shown Sterling, the terminal machine let out a short, unpleasant sound. Transaction rejected. Unauthorized use of credit deposit. I could imagine the expression on Liam's face, a mixture of shame, anger, and denial. He quickly reached for his second emergency card, the one I'd given him for household expenses. The result was the same: insufficient balance. Liam had no money. Or rather, he'd never had any money of his own. He had lived in a bubble for years, believing my financial flow was his talent. Now that bubble had burst 30,000 feet above sea level. He gave the driver the cash he had on hand to pay his debt, but that only got him a room in an ordinary business hotel near the airport, reserved under the name of financial manager, Marcus Jenkins, instead of a luxury hotel downtown. I was at home at the time. My laptop was open on the desk, cleaning up the mess Liam had left. This wasn't an emotional revenge operation. It was a risk management and asset liquidation operation. Just like Ulaya felt when she closed an unprofitable branch. My lawyer, David, called me from his office in Anchorage. David was my father's most trusted man, and also a confidant of my financial strategies. Clara, the voice was deep, we've stopped the transfer of License 44B. We've frozen Liam's and Marcus Jenkins's powers. This was an attempt at embezzlement and unauthorized sale. I'm submitting my documents to the court. Liam's powers over the company have been completely revoked. Excellent, I said. Now, second stage. What did our prenuptial agreement say? The prenuptial agreement you signed clearly states that all assets registered in your name, including the house your grandmother bequeathed to you, will remain your personal property. Liam has no legal rights whatsoever. And what about his successful consulting firm? I asked with a sarcastic smile. That office, Ms. Petrova, was purchased 5 years ago in your name as a tenant guarantee. Legally, all property belongs to you. Not only that, but his black SUV and all the corporate assets he acquired in the last 5 years were paid for from your company's loss mitigation budget. Things were starting to improve when I realized that this man's entire reputation, built over years, would be shattered with a single signature and a transfer. David, I said, start legal proceedings immediately. Prepare the sales paperwork for the office and the vehicle. Urgent liquidation. Send Liam a legal notice informing him he has 24 hours to collect his personal belongings. This wasn't just a blow. It was a fatal blow to Liam's identity, just as the sale of Sterling's office had been a fatal blow to his identity. Liam had regained consciousness in his hotel room. No one from Polar Investments was answering his phone. Marcus Jenkins had vanished. As Liam tried to understand the situation, he saw the text message I had sent. Funding cut off. The Ice Queen will not enter into a fraudulent deal. I have halted the transfer of ownership. You must return to Anchorage by 6 p.m. You must purchase a cash ticket. All cards are deactivated. Liam called me with trembling hands. I didn't answer the first call, just like Ulaya had done. Let him suffer. Let him understand the situation. On the second attempt, the phone went silent. And just then, A woman I didn't recognize called from a number that hadn't answered my calls. It was from Liam's phone. "Am I speaking with Clara Petrova?" The woman's voice was flirtatious and had a soft, southern accent. "Yes, who are you?" "I'm Diana, Liam's business partner, or rather, his prospective life partner in Seattle. I don't know what kind of game Liam is playing, but he's not here for a meeting. He's here to start a new life. And he can't stay here without playing those damn cards. Is that your grandmother's necklace?" So that snowflake necklace belonged to a woman at Polar Investments. A more elegant, more thoughtful gift than the engagement ring he bought for me. "That pendant isn't mine," I said coolly. "It belongs to an investor who's about to divest some loss-and-loss assets." Diana chuckled. "Oh, this is wonderful. Liam thought his wife was just a cargo pilot, but she turns out to be a banker. Don't worry, she won't need to be arrested in Seattle. Leave her to me." "Really?" I said. "Then you should know that the best decision a CFO can make is to get rid of an unprofitable asset. Liam is just like that unprofitable asset. Now, zero in my ledger." I hung up the phone. Diana's last words perfectly encapsulated the emotional dimension of Liam's betrayal. Liam hadn't just stayed with me for my financial power. He had also planned to leave the money and me for a more glamorous life in the South. Liam called again immediately. This time, I answered. "What's going on, Clara? Is this a joke? Are you selling the office? That's my identity, my consulting empire." There was panic and indignation in his voice, just like Sterling's collapse in the lobby. "Your empire?" I said, in a cheerful tone, as if I were telling him a fairy tale. "As a CFO, I need to get rid of anything that seems like an unprofitable asset to me, just like you and that Diana woman are doing. My decision is to ensure the Ice Queen survives." "Diana? What nonsense are you talking about? Just shut down that office, please. If the bank demands repayment of the mortgage, I'll go bankrupt. I'll be insolvent." "Well then," I said, "welcome to your independent life. Haven't you always wanted to stand on your own 2 feet? Here's your chance. After all, you're a successful businessman. You need to figure out how to get back to Alaska and support that Diana. Maybe you could sell that snowflake necklace. It looks pretty expensive." I heard Liam gasp. "What?" he whispered. "Liam," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. The calls from Seattle had stopped. The tension between Liam and Diana, much like the conflict between Valencia and Odessa, had escalated into an internal struggle, just as I had anticipated. Diana had realized she was merely a tool. Liam, who had arrived in this city, promised a life of luxury, now resembled a beggar, and the woman by his side, like Zoe Price, had instantly abandoned her husband. I was finishing up my work at my log cabin in Anchorage. After my meeting with David, I found an old bottle of Russian cognac, inherited from my father. I didn't normally drink alcohol, but this was unusual. I poured myself a glass. The liquidation of unprofitable assets continued. My lawyer, David, had initiated the sale of Liam's most prized possession, his luxurious office in downtown Anchorage. Liam considered it the headquarters of his consulting empire. Yet, it had been purchased in my name and used as a tenant guarantee. Like Ulea's Atlanta office, this was just a decoration built on my solid foundation. I read Liam's hysterical messages from the previous night. He kept asking why his cards weren't working, why I was trying to sell the office. The answer was simple. Everything that crosses the line has a price. Liam's business partner, Marcus Jenkins, had also called. There was a strange tone in his voice, a mixture of pleading and threat. Clara, we're all going to go bankrupt. If you stop the license, Polar Investments will ruin us. Let us sign the papers. This is a mistake. David had also recorded Marcus's call. Clara, this is a clear legal threat and incitement to crime. This evidence will be the backbone of our financial fraud case that we will use against them in the divorce proceedings. Liam's greatest fear was coming true: bankruptcy. He finally understood that without the profit mechanism I had built, he couldn't stand on his own. The final blow to Liam's reputation was receiving news of the urgent sale of his black SUV. That car was his image in the small town. Success, power, and speed. David texted me at 10 a.m. The Escalade is sold for 80% of the market price. The buyer paid in cash. Liquidation complete. At that moment, I finished the last drop in my glass of cognac. This was the culmination of my legal and financial revenge. Liam had nothing left to give back. No office, no car, no money. Things were starting to improve. But now all that awaited him was an ice labyrinth woven with my silent and calculated moves. The solitude at home, contrary to expectations, was not suffocating, but refreshing. Just like the liberation Maya felt after clearing out her house. She had reclaimed her life. So had I. At that moment, my phone rang. Liam. This time he wasn't leaving a voicemail. He was making a video call. Just like Sterling's last desperate call from the motel. I answered. The screen showed a dim, messy room in a cheap airport hotel in Seattle. Liam, like Sterling, looked awful. Unshaven, dark under his eyes, and a wrinkled shirt. Clara, his voice was hoarse and choked with sobs. Clara, please stop this nonsense. That office, is the office really sold? Yes, Liam, I said. My voice was cheerful but cold. It was a rush deal. My lawyer got a good price, just like you were hoping to get from that modernization deal. You're ruining me, he yelled. My whole life. What am I going to tell my mother? What am I going to tell the clients? You managed to withstand your mother's criticism for years. You can lie to your clients too. After all, your whole success story was a lie I made up. I was an ATM with a heart. And you know, when ATMs break, they're not repaired. They're replaced. Liam turned the camera. Diana was in the room too. She looked just as disheveled as Liam, but there was no anger in her eyes, only pure disgust. You're finished, Liam, Diana said, looking at the camera. You told me your wife was just a cargo pilot and could divorce him whenever she wanted. But she turned out to be a ruthless investor who left us in this ice hole. You didn't even accept my card. You're penniless. Liam didn't answer Diana or me. His face suddenly turned deathly pale, the color of earth. At that moment, I realized Liam had lost not only me, but also the identity he had constructed for himself. Clara, he whispered, we don't have return tickets. Our passports... I know, I said. David had kept their passports valid, but he had only transferred enough money for one-way economy class tickets to Anchorage. But the truly shocking thing was this. Liam had an even bigger blow planned for me, and now it was time to show him. Just like Valencia stole the children's fund, Liam had his eye on my retirement fund. I opened the email David had just sent. It was a screenshot showing a bank rejection for a large sum Liam had tried to withdraw from my pension fund a month ago. Liam, do you remember Diana mentioning that snowflake necklace? I asked. What necklace are you talking about? I just realized you didn't want to stay married to me. Just like Sterling's mother, Ulea, saw him as a burden to her family. I was a burden too, but I wasn't the only burden. You know what, Liam? I received notification that your $100,000 attempt to withdraw from my pension fund failed. Liam's jaw dropped. Diana's eyes lit up. Liam had kept it a secret, even from her. "That fund," I said, my voice rising. "That was money I earned freezing to death in 40 degrees in the Arctic. It was my future. Now go and figure out how you and that woman are going to get back. This is business. Non-profitable assets are disposed of. You're disposed of." I hung up the phone. My phone rang instantly. At that moment, I felt a strange lightness, like I'd thrown off a backpack full of stones I'd been carrying for years. I didn't want to stay in Anchorage anymore. The mere thought of Liam returning to my house made me nauseous. It was time to start a new life. Liam's drive from Seattle to Alaska would take at least 30 hours, giving me plenty of time to move. I immediately made a second call. This time it wasn't David, but John, my father's old friend and a real estate agent. "Hi, John. I want you to put my house in Anchorage up for sale immediately. Urgent liquidation. List it today." "But Clara, why? You loved that house." "Love isn't enough, John. It's become the center of an unprofitable investment for me. I need a fresh start. I love Alaska, but not that house." While Liam and Diana struggled to find money for a ticket, I was buying my own flight. This time, not to the cockpit of my cargo plane, but to a completely different place, to Antalya. Sun, warmth, and sea. I gave David power of attorney to handle the paperwork and officially evict Liam from the house. I told him to send him legal notice, giving him 24 hours to collect his personal belongings. Everything was going smoothly until, in a silent, calculated maze of ice, woven from my meticulously planned moves, awaited him. In the airport lobby in Seattle, he would read the message I sent him. "You need to buy your return ticket to Alaska in cash. And no, all the accounts at home have been frozen. The best decision a CFO can make is to get rid of a non-profitable asset." The empty house and sold office Liam would find upon his return to Alaska would teach him the most valuable lesson of my life. Freedom comes at a price. Liam's return to Alaska would take 30 hours. This period wasn't just a waiting period for me. It was also a process of shedding a backpack full of burdens I'd been carrying for years. I was alone at home, free from Liam's endless complaints and his mother's criticisms. That morning, I sorted through all the belongings left in the house. Everything that was physical evidence of Liam's arrogance and selfish pleasures was set aside. His expensive sports equipment, which he called very important, the silver-framed photograph his mother gave him, and that icy snowflake pendant that had come out of his briefcase. I stuffed it all into a large trash bag. This wasn't just a cleanup. It was a loss mitigation operation. My lawyer, David, called again. "Clara, the summons has legally reached Liam's address in Anchorage. He needs to collect his personal belongings within 24 hours. Otherwise, they will be liquidated." "Thanks, David," I said. "I want Liam to see the divorce papers within a week. Let's speed things up." David's voice was tense on the other end of the line. "And Liam's mother? I'm sure she'll try to turn against us. She's been despising you for years." "They are," I said, smiling. "She wants to believe that her son can exist without my financial support. Let her believe it. When she faces the truth, she'll abandon him, just like Omar abandoned Maya." I found our wedding photo. Liam looked so handsome that day. I couldn't tell anymore whether the sparkle in his eyes was admiration for my financial independence or love. I crumpled the photo and threw it in the trash. All that was left was my real life and the Ice Queen empire I had built. I transferred full control of the license to my own name and established a legal trust. It was impossible for Liam and his business partners to ever touch these assets again. And at that moment, I felt like a stranger in this house, in this city. This was now the center of my unprofitable investment. It had to be sold. Liam and Diana arrived in Anchorage after a cheap, connecting flight. They carried in their belts some cash they'd borrowed at high interest from a local lender they'd barely managed to find at an airport hotel. But what greeted them at the airport was neither my SUV nor a warm hug. Instead, a moving truck sent by David was waiting to transport Liam's belongings to the storage unit. The driver handed Liam the legal notice. Liam exploded with rage upon seeing the words divorce and eviction. His house key didn't work. The locks had been changed on David's instructions. "Clara, how dare you? I'm a CEO, a businessman. This is my house." This outburst of anger was the first reaction I expected. Liam, like Sterling, didn't know what to do in the face of this blow to his identity. When Liam realized he was being evicted, he made an unbelievable move. He decided to use public opinion. An hour later, a video was posted on Liam's social media account. Against the backdrop of a dimly lit, grimy motel room, he played the victim, his eyes teary and his shirt wrinkled. "Guys," his voice shaky and dramatic, "my wife Clara abandoned me and my business partner during our business trip. She froze all our accounts. She didn't leave me a penny. She left me out in the cold of Alaska, on the street. That's how she repaid the love I gave her for years. She's a cold, heartless monster. She's jealous of my success." Liam was portraying me as a jealous monster, much like Valencia had tried to portray Ulea as a monster. Liam's attempt garnered attention faster than I expected. Several popular local blogs immediately reposted the story. Comments were divided. "What a cruel woman," and "How could a CFO do this?" But I smiled while watching the video. Just as Ulea had prepared a response to Valencia's hysterical video, I had already prepared mine. My response would be cold accounting, not sentimentality. My lawyer, David, had alerted my former firm's public relations team, just as Julian had helped Ulea. Within an hour, a press release was posted under Liam's video in my name, along with a link to the evidence. The title was simple: "The Price of Freedom, the CFO Report." The report stated, in dry and legal language: 1. Expense report. Evidence that all funds used for Liam Miller's personal expenses over the past 5 years were financed from Clara Petrova's personal accounts. 5-year account statements. 2. Statement of assets. Legal and 100% ownership of Liam's consulting firm office and vehicle belongs to Clara Petrova. Title deeds and sales contracts. 3. Attempted fraud. Proof of a signed contract regarding Liam Miller's attempt to transfer 51% of license 44B without the consent of the legal owner, Clara Petrova. 4. Pension fund theft. Bank denial document showing Liam's attempt to make unauthorized withdrawals from an account he called a fund for the children's future 2 weeks prior. The report clearly showed that Liam was planning to abandon me while simultaneously attempting to embezzle my assets. But what was truly shocking was that David had also included screenshots of messages Liam sent to Diana, in which he referred to me as a stupid, rich nerd. This was proof of emotional betrayal. Public reaction changed instantly. Comments about the CFO who refused to help them even after proving her son was a failed con artist instantly turned into, "Liam is a total leech. The woman is getting her own money back." The sound of a call from Liam's phone echoed through the house. This time, his voice wasn't angry. It was utterly exhausted. I answered. "Hello, Liam. Clara, how could you do this? I can't handle this much shame. You've ruined my whole life." "No, Liam," I said. "You've ruined my patience and trust. I was just doing the accounting. My life project, the Ice Queen, was going to fail because of your stupid decisions. And I saved it. That's a CFO's job. What about our love? 10 years? Love? Your love ended when my bank account showed zero. Just like Diana left you when your cards were rejected. The only difference between you two was that snowflake necklace. It represented the intimacy you could never give me. Liam gasped for a moment. He had nothing left to say. Liam, I said one last time, your independent life in Alaska begins now. Get a job, stand on your own 2 feet, or go to Diana. She can find you a place to stay. I'm leaving. Where? My plane ticket is to Antalya. Sun, warmth, and a place where no one can touch my financial future. Just like the dream of the Maldives, but for me. I hung up the phone. Immediately afterward, I called my lawyer, David. David, speed up the house sale. I'm leaving town today. Make sure Liam and his mother never set foot on this property again. As I drove to Anchorage Airport, the hazy, cold Alaskan air filled me. The snowy mountains over which my cargo planes flew no longer seemed like a source of sadness, but a monument to a hard-won victory. My suitcase contained only the most essential items: my passport, my computer, and a single wristwatch inherited from my father. At the airport, I didn't walk to the small bar near the cargo gates. I went straight to the business class counter. For the first time in a long time, I was sitting in the control seat of my own life. Not the cockpit of a cargo plane. Ticket, Anchorage, Antalya. One way, from the plane window, the snow-white Alaskan landscape looked like a blanket woven with shadows. I had broken free from years of family chains. This trip was more than just a vacation cancellation that would have cost me $50,000 and a lot of nerves. This was the best deal of my career. The plane sped up and climbed into the sky. When the sun hit the icy wings, it shimmered like snowflake crumbs. As the plane descended southward, I looked down from the window. I had gazed at the cold waters of the Ice Queen for years. But now, the Mediterranean, shimmering in the sun, was a mirror of my ultimate triumph. Liam and Diana, however, were about to face the icy reality of Alaska. When Liam and Diana arrived at Anchorage International Airport, ANC, the unforgiving cold of Alaska greeted them. One-way economy class tickets, 2 layovers, 2 nights sleeping on the floor at airports. Liam, in the expensive suit he had worn before going to Seattle, now looked wrinkled, dirty, and utterly exhausted. Diana, in the light clothes she had bought for a tropical vacation, shivered in the freezing Alaskan wind. Neither an SUV nor a limousine was waiting for them. Following David's instructions, they had booked a room at the cheapest hotel near the airport, just like Sterling's motel. To get there, they took a yellow taxi, which Liam had to pay for in cash. Upon arriving at the hotel, Liam received a message on his phone stating that a legal notice had been served. Eviction notice. Collect your belongings within 24 hours. Otherwise, your belongings will be liquidated. Liam panicked and left the hotel. When he arrived at our house in Anchorage, he found the key wouldn't work. A legal notice, signed by David, was posted on the door, stating that the locks had been changed and the eviction had begun. Things were starting to get better when Liam was about to face the final blow Diana had prepared for him. Liam looked through the window. The house was empty. The kitchen cabinets were empty. The living room furniture was gone. Only one thing remained: a crumpled, frosted snowflake pendant thrown on the floor. Liam picked up the necklace. At that moment, he realized it wasn't just a gift, but a tool she was using to exploit my presence and love. That's when a gray, earthy color of stress and shame settled on Liam's face. Liam returned to the hotel in anger and despair. But when he entered, Diana wasn't in the room. Only her suitcase and handbag remained. On the bed was a small pile of Liam's most important documents: his passport, an old bank passbook, and a note. "Liam, this is over. I understand that woman who called you a stupid leech was right. You can't stand on your own 2 feet, and I can't stay with someone who's risking my future. My cards are working again. By the way, I found the prepayment receipt from the office sale. That's the debt you took from me. Don't forget to pick up your things from storage. I believe you can succeed on your own in Alaska. Diana." Below the note was a copy of the Ice Queen license Liam was trying to get rid of. Diana had also taken this document, which she considered her most important asset. Liam was alone in the room. There was no home, no job, no money, and no Diana left. Just as Sterling's mother, Ulia, had realized that he had nothing without money, Liam had realized that his identity was defined by my financial flow. But the truly shocking thing was this. Diana, just like Odessa had stolen the children's fund, had taken all of Liam's emergency fund that his mother had given him before leaving the airport in Seattle. Liam collapsed onto the bed and picked up his phone. He called me. I was sipping a local wine on my terrace overlooking the Mediterranean. The sun was warming my skin. Peace was flowing into me. My phone rang. "Liam." I answered. "Hi, Liam." His voice was filled with sobs. "Clara, please. Diana left me. I have no money. I have nowhere to go. Please, just a few $1,000s. Just to start." "Oh, how sad," I said, trying not to hide the joy in my voice. "I understand. Well, I saw that Diana left you a note. She had the property transfer document with her. I suppose it's a precious memento for you." "Is this a joke?" he yelled. You're a monster." "A monster?" I laughed. "No, Liam. I'm just a CFO, and I ended my marriage, which had become a loss-making asset, just like you and Diana did to me. I sold myself and got myself back." Liam's voice turned into complete despair. "What am I going to do now?" "Just like you always wanted," I said. "You're going to build an independent life. You're a successful businessman. The lesson Alaska will teach you is to stand on your own 2 feet." I hung up the phone. When I pressed the hang-up button, the ice crystal in my chest had completely melted. My days in Antalya were the complete opposite of my life in Anchorage. My fear of flying was part of years of tension and exhaustion. Now, when I looked at the sky, I only saw freedom. Just like Ulea found the Silver Travelers Club in Tuscany, I found myself in a new community. Here, the people I met saw me not as a pilot or CFO, but simply as Clara. They came to see me not for job interviews, but to enjoy the sun and swim in the sea. A month later, news from David made me smile. The divorce was finalized in a single hearing. Liam had not filed a legal objection. On the day the divorce papers were submitted to the court, Liam's mother, Zoe, refused to answer her son's phone, leaving him to his own devices, just as Odessa had left Valencia. She had given up. My house had been sold, and all the proceeds had been transferred to my personal pension fund in Switzerland. The Ice Queen was now solely mine and continued to generate profit. But my spiritual transformation was more valuable than my financial success. Just as Maya found herself by accepting the offer to be assistant principal at school, I discovered a new passion here: marine biology. Liam always called me cargo pilot, but I had an incredible knowledge of marine life, thanks to the experience I gained by taking over my father's fishing business in the Arctic. I found a small marine conservation association in Antalya and started volunteering. I had spent the first 30 years of my life trying to be the woman Liam wanted me to be. Now, at 30, I was truly becoming Clara Petrova. 6 months later, Antalya was my new home. One morning, while looking at the sea on the beach, I received a message from Julian. It was a routine report on Liam's situation. Liam had stayed in Anchorage. He had lost his job because his office had been sold. A few months throughout his life, he had worked as a tire repairman in a workshop, eventually renting a small apartment for himself. He no longer owned his old black SUV. Now he was waiting for the bus in the freezing cold of Alaska. Most importantly, Liam couldn't even lie to his mother anymore. Liam had finally faced the harsh reality of having to earn his own money. Just like Sterling, who worked as a sales representative for a glass fitting company, Liam was learning to stand on his own 2 feet. A final message arrived from Liam. "Happy birthday, Clara. I know it's late, but thank you. Now I'm finding my own way." As I read this message, not a trace of anger remained in my heart. What could I write back? "I'm happy? You're too late?" No. Any response I gave would be a thread of hope for him to cling to again. Just like Ulea had turned off her phone and cut off all communication with him, I did the same. I turned off the phone. The screen went dark and reflected my face, calm and clear, free of the wrinkles of worry. This trip was much more than a cancellation that would cost me $50,000 and a lot of nerves. It was the best deal of my career. I had reclaimed myself. Just like Maya opened her own bakery, Maya's Bake Shop. Years later, I was now building my own bakery in this new, sunny life. My revenge wasn't Liam's downfall. It was my rebirth. Dear friends, this is how the story ends. It is undoubtedly harsh, but fair. Clara Petrova stood up against dishonor, injustice, and selfishness. She got back not only her money, but also her respect. This decision, which confronted Liam with the reality of his own life, was a belated but ultimately correct lesson in parenting. So when you feel that your own life project is in danger, could you completely cancel that project? Could you accept that the price of true freedom is heavier than maintaining a comfortable lie? If you enjoyed my story, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. In the comments, write which city you're listening from. I'm always curious to know how far my words reach. See you in the next video.